Here we go for another week of the Rush Report with Nick and Keith. Everybody is excited, I'm sure, to watch this. Actually, Nick, I think we have a few more views than what we used to do because of Discord.
That was I'm so happy that Dave created that. I mean, a shout out to Dave for doing that. I mean, I love the constant communication this year with everybody. We're getting people,
Great.
we're getting regulars, we're getting Nell, Bryan, we're getting Shayne, uh, Dan Cobb's in there, Dave Sherwood. You get you and me. I mean, there's a couple other people are in there, but I love the communication
Dad?
this year. Yes, that's really cool to see. I mean, people that you don't usually see on the message boards that are just popping off and just talking. So
Yeah, it's great.
I'm enjoying this season with that because it's made it much more fun. I think uh Hobbs made a comment in our baseball league that there's barely no communication. I mean, so it's like, man, I'm so glad that we got that in the football league this year.
Yeah, I love the fact that we're able to go back and forth. This is why I love fantasy football. For this right here, I mean, yeah, I want to win, but I play to see people that I know. So, and Nick, I'm celebrating my first win this year. Thank you, Jeromy.
Oh, Mr. Texas, come on. Don't be letting him win. That's not okay.
I did text him Sunday morning and asked him if he would take it easy on me, and he said he needed the win more. So I'm going to take it up as him just being nice.
Is if it's
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
yeah. As basically I'm any moral victory of not being in the bottom two or good to go.
Well, update on our pick schedule, Nick. You went 5-7 last week.
Oh man, that's bad.
Yeah, after a great week two. Week three was not nice to you, so that brings your season total to 16-20. I happen to go 6-6, so I only got one game on you, and I'm 21-15. So we're not out of this yet.
No,
And
no.
and like we always talk about, one good week and you're right back in it. So, you ready to get into it?
Oh, we got this, man.
All right, let's just jump right in this week. First matchup, game of the week in the bigs. I went back and forth, but this is the matchup that I actually came up with. Jeromy and Daren.
Good matchup.
This looks like it could be a high scoring affair. I know Jeromy disappointed last week. He had the points on the bench. Nothing. I'm not complaining about that one bit, but this could be a high scoring matchup. I mean, MFL calculates this at 0.2 of a point or a quarter of a point.
Yeah, and you got two interesting guys going in there, especially at his running back position. I mean, every indication is both Swifty and Montgomery aren't playing this week, but that's not necessarily true. They might still, Herbert pushed to play last week. Does Swift and Montgomery still have the same leverage to play this week?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could put a damper, but if not, man, sweet matchup for Jamal Williams and Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, I mean, this is a matchup of backup running backs, really. For Daren, Dalvin Cook looks like he's trending that he's going to be out, or if he plays, he's not going to be as effective. Remember, they're playing in London this week, so very, very well could be game time decision at 9:30. I think Daren's smart not starting Dalvin Cook this week. And Khalil Herbert looks like he's going to be the guy in Chicago with David Montgomery. Montgomery's injury.
That's one of the things. It's like it's a better idea to go with the backups this week, and I do agree. I mean, her indication is Dalvin Cook is not suiting up this week. I mean, yeah, it's Wednesday, but he's really banged up.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be one of those game time decisions, but dislocated shoulder. And as a running back in week four, don't risk it. You've got a great backup in Alexander Madison if you're the Vikings, but we'll talk about Alexander Madison when we get to a different matchup. Let's look at the quarterbacks. Justin Herbert, you could tell last week, he was hurting.
He shouldn't have been out there. He had no business being out there. And I'm concerned about his health. I mean, this would be a thing where you'd think that was it Chase Daniel should be playing against the Texans.
Yeah,
Texans are 0-3. I mean, what do you got to lose?
Yep. But the thing that Jeromy does have going for him, he is facing against a Lamar Jackson, against a good Bills defense. Now, granted, there's injuries there, but Lamar Jackson's looking like a genius for betting on himself, and he's possibly, he definitely is an early season MVP candidate.
Oh man, he's slinging it with the best of them, and he's running the ball too. I mean, he's looking good.
Yeah, I hate saying that. Let me go get some chocolate to get that nasty Raven taste out of my mouth. But looking at the running backs, Aaron Jones, he disappointed last week, but the Bucs have a good run defense. New England's run defense is not what it normally is. I like Aaron Jones to bounce back this week. But the player that Jeremy's starting that I don't like is Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson does not look like he is capable of handling the lead back capabilities in San Francisco. He's a nice compliment. I don't think he's the actual guy in San Francisco.
The question is going to really be who is it, because you went to Mitchell, and then Wilson was supposed to be the backup with Prince coming in there, but Prince is out, so would it be the undrafted rookie? There's so many questions in that backfield, and that's not a good thing to be against Aaron Donald.
Yeah. Now, I mean, Khalil Herbert, he'll be fine against the Giants. But looking at Darren, I mean, Nick Chubb, he's obviously, you start him even if he's on a bye week at this point. James Robinson, he looks like he's the back now in Jacksonville. And Jamal Williams will see a lot of touches in the backfield with DeAndre Swift trending toward being out this week. I like the running back matchup for Darren in this week.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that Jeffrey Wilson is a little concerning, and I'm going to imagine Aaron Jones is going to be way better this week against the Patriots, who are going to be probably behind most of the game. But Jeffrey Wilson against the Rams is enough.
Oh, yeah. But looking at wide receivers, Rashad Bateman, he's been playing like a number one wide receiver all year. Didn't expect that coming into the season. And Drake London has been a great surprise. Actually, he's been a terrible surprise, honestly, if I'm being personally honest, in Atlanta. You like what you see out of Darren's wide receivers.
So here's my issue with Bateman. First 2 weeks he did something. Last week he didn't do anything. And he's only good for late round blowouts, is what it seems to be. Dumervay is the guy you want in that wide receiving core.
I agree.
Or Andrews, obviously. I mean, Andrews goes without saying.
Yeah, but I like Bateman's matchup against the Bills. The Bills secondary is a little beat up. You know, he's touchdown dependent. He's not getting tons of receptions, but he has proved to be a valuable fantasy player. Then you go over to the other side. Justin Jefferson's he's getting Marshawn Lattimore. That does concern me a little bit, but I'll take Justin Jefferson to at least average. I think he gets at least 15 points just based on the matchup. Hey, there you are, buddy.
Kept going out.
Tyler Lockett, I don't know what to make of him this year. Nobody in Seattle's offense seems to be doing anything spectacular, but Lockett's one break away from scoring a touchdown on a slant.
Lockett's I don't know. You know, I've had this conversation before. Lockett and Metcalf, it used to be the back and forth who's going to score a touchdown this week.
Yeah.
Now the only reliable target is Metcalf, and Lockett is he a wide receiver 4 or 5 at this point, because he's not reliable.
Yeah, it's depressing to see that, because you see the prime of his career kind of being wasted by poor quarterback play. Now, I will say Geno Smith has impressed me more this year as a quarterback. He's spreading the ball around a little bit more. And Seattle's playing the right way. I just don't trust Lockett.
No, absolutely. I mean, I love Justin Jefferson. I mean, Packers fan, wonderful fantasy player.
Yeah. And then it comes down to tight end. And Joku, he had a great week last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Freiermuth, he's proven that he's capable. He's usually averaging right around that 7 and 7.5 points per game because he's a safety valve in that offense. And I said it last week, look for Deontay Johnson to pick it up. And because Deontay Johnson picked it up, I think that hurt Freiermuth's value a little bit and dropped him a little bit. So I look for Freiermuth to stay right around that 7.5 point range unless he gets a touchdown.
I agree with that. I mean, it's the Jets. I mean, they've really looked a whole lot better this year, but it's a softer matchup for Pat Freiermuth to go in there. But I mean, I really like the defensive matchup with the Packers this week over the Saints against the Vikings because
Absolutely,
the Packers are going against Axel Hoyer. I don't know if you heard about that one.
Yeah,
Brian Hoyer's first name is Axel.
Yeah. What are we watching? Thor: Love and Thunder. But when it comes down to it, the injuries for Jeremy's team concern me to the point that I can't pick him in good faith. And so I'm looking at Daren coming off a huge win last week against the number one team and Christy's team, which that matchup had the 2 highest points scored last week. So Daren scored the most points last week, and it wasn't close. But I'm going to look for Daren to keep on continuing his winning ways.
I would agree with that. Nothing against you, Jeromy. It's just there's more certainty with his lineup.
Yeah, Jeremy's lineup is the complete risk reward lineup. Moving ahead, we've got the next matchup of Bryan against Dave. Another high quality matchup here. And I want to get your thoughts here on what you're thinking when you see these two teams.
Bryan he's sneaky. And Dave, his team is just, they seem to beat projection almost every week.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's like a major funk with his team. But I mean, it's crazy how these two guys, their teams work out week in and week out.
Yeah, I mean, Bryan's still looking for that first win on the season. Unfortunately, didn't get against Caleb last week, and Dave is still puttering along, and still undefeated at this moment.
I mean, when you got Cooper Kupp and AJ Brown, I mean, that's almost enough.
Yeah, and Miles Sanders has been a great surprise this year. I personally was not expecting that. I thought he was going to start losing ground to Kenneth Gainwell. And then when they brought in Trey Sermon, I wouldn't have been surprised to see Miles Sanders back off a little bit. And you start to see Breece Hall get a little bit more work with the Jets offense, which I think is huge upside, especially fantasy speaking wise, because I think Breece Hall is the better running back.
He certainly is the better running back. I mean, I think the week 1 and maybe part of week 2 was still Michael Carter, but now with Wilson coming back, it'll be interesting to see how that's integrated into the game plan.
Yeah, I mean, little known fact. I just looked it up because I wanted to make sure that I was correct. Dave is the last undefeated team in the Bigs.
Look at him go! But you know what? He comes out swinging every single year, though.
Yeah, last year he started a little slow, and now this year he's picking it right back up. But looking at the other side, James Conner, he gets a good matchup against the Panthers this week, and he's had a couple bad matchups to start the season, and he still looks like he's not totally healthy, because last week he did take some big hits against the Rams, but the Cardinals were in pass heavy mode because of that. Look for Conner to bounce back this week.
Yeah, they threw Eno Benjamin in there a little bit, but it's the James Conner show. I mean, I was looking at a report. He's certainly healthy. He's going to be out there rocking the ball this week.
Yeah. And then you got Josh Jacobs. I mean,
It's a terrible line. I mean, he's got no room to run.
yeah, and the Broncos front seven is a good front seven. I don't love the matchup this week for him. Now, looking at wide receivers, you're not beating AJ Brown, Cooper Kupp, and DJ Moore.
No,
I don't see it.
even with a weird Panthers offense, you're not going to beat that. I mean, that's still 2.5 players in my mind, versus potentially 2 full players. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get with Cole Beasley, and Adam Thielen is barely a full player because he's been nothing this year.
I was going to say, what are you saying? Two full players because Deebo Samuel is 1.5.
Oh, Deebo Samuel could almost be 2 players all by himself.
Yeah, and then I feel for that. I mean, I have Adam Thielen stock in a couple leagues, thinking, okay, he's going to bounce back, and just hasn't done that. He did have a touchdown last week, so maybe that's the start of something new for him.
The start of something new?
Yeah,
you never know.
Yep. And then Dawson Knox, I think he was drafted high this year to be the guy in Buffalo, to be the tight end. He's getting 4 or 5 targets a game, but not seeing anything in the red zone, which does concern me as a fantasy owner.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense why he's not getting the love. I mean, a lot of tight ends aren't getting it, maybe unless you're Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews. You're not getting consistent love.
Yeah. Tyler Conklin, I feel like Tyler Conklin and Dawson Knox are washes at this point, just based on that. If Dalton Schultz plays, I'll give Dalton Schultz a little bit of an edge over Tyler Conklin, just because I actually trust Cooper Rush a little bit more, because Schultz is a more consistent target for Cooper Rush than Dawson Knox is for Josh Allen.
I guess my question is going to be, what's Conklin going to be like with Wilson? I mean, he might have the rapport with Flacco, but this is a completely different set of offense. You got a mobile quarterback.
Yeah. So when it comes down to it, we've got a defeated team against an undefeated team. Do you look for something to change in that area this week?
I think it could be more competitive if Bryan made some changes. If Renfro was healthy, that's to be seen. Or if he played McKenzie, I think it would be much more competitive than what he is out there now. But with that said, we're going with what we got. I mean, it looks like they both submitted lineups. Well, no, Bryan hasn't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's Wednesday. It's early. Schedules work for us to be able to do the rush report on Wednesday, so we've made the change to Wednesdays. So I mean, I can see a path for Bryan to win, but I like Dave's team from top to bottom, and the wide receivers. Those are huge.
I mean, I said more competitive. I didn't say he'd win. So, but my initial gut, until Dave proves me wrong, Dave is going to win.
All right. So Nick just jinxed Dave.
Sorry, Dave.
All right. Up next, we'll skip over this matchup because I don't even think it's going to be close. I'm trying this method again. Completely downplay a lineup so that way I can have a chance to win.
At least see, if I weren't playing Jeffrey, you would have a shot.
Yeah.
I see your thought process. Let's just say that.
I mean, the thing that I like, Alexander Madison's probably going to get touches. I know the Saints' run defense is good, and that hurts his value, but you've got to start a starting running back, especially in this league where it seems like running backs are hard to come by, to have a solid second running back, unless if you kept 2 running backs.
Or you keep one that's a bust. I mean, that too. But no, but you got good running backs. The problem is you're going against Austin Eckler.
Mm-hmm.
And the Texans.
Yeah, and then on the other side, you've got Dameon Pierce against a bad Charger run defense.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't help. I mean, it doesn't really help in your favor that Patrick Mahomes is playing. But the plus side is going against the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I don't know. I still like Mahomes. I think Mahomes has something to come out and say after losing the Super Bowl to Brady and the Bucks a few years ago, 2 years ago. Um, if you play football, if you play sports, you want to come out and show that you can win big games.
That's a true story.
Yep. And then you've got Carson Wentz is. I keep going back and forth between Wentz and Matt Ryan. I'm playing the quarterback roulette. Last week I got lucky, but Carson Wentz, Cowboys are going to be ahead, and the Commanders are going to have to throw the ball a whole lot more this week than what they did last week, even though they lost.
The football team, I don't know. It's the whole Cowboys thing. I don't really know what to think about the Cowboys anymore. I mean, I want to say they're a semi decent defense, but
Oh yeah,
if Wentz keeps doing what he's doing, he'll be just fine. I mean,
he had a bad week last week, and that's okay.
yeah.
You kind of expect it when he's going up against the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. So you're double dipping there with McScorin, and I mean, CD though. I mean, I was just listening to a podcast yesterday. He is the guy in Dallas, so there's nothing to worry about with him. He's an automatic. I mean, it's gonna be dependent on if Cooper, if he's gonna actually do something again. I mean, Falcons aren't a great team, but the problem you got to worry about is Devontae Smith. I mean, he roasted me last week. I should have won. He should have thrown the ball to AJ Brown because that would have helped me in another league.
Oh man, Devontae Smith. I mean, he's a stud.
Oh, he's so good.
That
He roasted me.
Yeah, that Eagles offense is for real. Jalen Hurts is for real. We'll talk about Jalen Hurts here coming up in a few, but Jeffrey's got AJ Dillon. I feel like he's going to be in line for touchdowns this week. It seems like Green Bay doesn't want to use him around the red zone as much, but I'm looking for him to get some more touches around the red zone just because of his sheer size and his ability to find the end zone in the red zone.
Yeah. I mean, so, but yeah, your tight ends unfortunately aren't a wash because the Raiders just haven't been clicking yet. I mean, Mark Andrews is Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
And Darren Waller. I mean, he could be, but it just doesn't click there. And I'm not sure what Keith is doing at defense, but I see what you're doing far as Seahawks, I guess.
And the matchup. I mean, when you string defenses, you have to look at matchups. And
MFL
teams,
drives me crazy with their projections in general.
yeah, I mean, Geno Smith is at some point is going to throw a pick, and the Lions' defense has actually improved this year compared to the last few years. So I don't hate having to start the Lions' defense this week.
No, I get you.
All right, pick time here. I still don't see how I can pick myself. Pride kicks in and saying, Keith, you got to pick yourself. But looking at the matchup, unless if Carson Wentz plays out of his mind and the Lions have 35 points on defense, I don't think I'm beating Jeffrey this week.
Yeah, I see what you're doing, but you're not going to win, unfortunately.
I'm just avoiding relegation at this point.
Not last two.
3.
Or 3.
All right. This takes us right into our next matchup, which is great matchup. I almost made this matchup the game of the week, just because you've got the Dan and Adam factor, the father-son matchup, and these two teams are very similar. It's just that Dan has been on the short side of some luck this year.
Yeah, let's chalk it up to analytics on this one. I don't know what he's doing at quarterback, but I mean, if he's going to roll with Marcus Mariota, by all means, roll out with him. Versus probably fantasy football's quarterback darling right now, Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts this year reminds me of when Lamar Jackson won the MVP a couple years ago. That he's in his second year as a full-time starter. Lamar Jackson was in his second year as a starter, and you're starting to see it click for Jalen Hurts. I get a little jealous of Eagles fans because I thought the Eagles made a mistake when they went with Jalen Hurts.
I agree.
Jalen Hurts is the real deal.
I mean, I thought it's like, oh, this kid, he can't throw. All he does is run the ball. He's a college quarterback. He's going to be like, oh, that kid from Michigan a few years back.
Yeah, Denard Robinson.
That I thought he's going to be, he was built and acted like him. He's going to do the exact same nonsense. But nope, certainly not.
Yeah. So you look at that and you see how things come together. Dan's not. I don't have a problem with Dan starting Marcus Mariota. It's a fantasy quarterback. Nothing wrong with that. He's getting rushing touchdowns. That's valuable. The thing that I don't love, I still don't love having both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams starting in the same roster. That's just a personal thing for me. I don't like having two receivers from the same team.
I'm the same way. I don't like it, but that to each his own.
Yep. I mean, I get the play. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just a personal preference.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and then looking at Adam's team, I wouldn't be surprised if T. Higgins is taken out of the lineup because I look at Noah Brown. Noah Brown's Cooper Rush's favorite target right now, and you can't go wrong with that.
I think he's erring. Well, he hasn't set a lineup, but I think he's erring on the side of cautioning in case Gallup does come back this week.
Could be. Now, Travis Kelce will outplay Hunter Henry. I wouldn't be surprised to see Hunter Henry put up a 0 this week.
Yeah, it's kind of like if he gets 5 points, you're in good shape, but I don't see him getting that.
Yep. So when it comes down to it, looking at this, I would love to be able to say there's an upset brewing here, but I don't see how it's possible with the way the lineups are constructed at this point. So
Jalen Waddle and Hurts are enough for them to pull out the win.
I would agree wholeheartedly. All right. Coming up next, right up at you, is Chad's matchup with Christy's. Now, Christy's coming off a heartbreaking loss where she scored the second most points last week and lost and had the points on the bench. Now, granted, I wouldn't have made any of the changes that she did, or I wouldn't have changed anything. I thought she had the right lineup, and you're never going to start Trevor Lawrence over Josh Allen.
Nope. I mean, she made the right calls. Sometimes it's just dumb luck.
Yep. And then you got Chad, who is back down to 1-2, and I think you're starting to see some of the issues that Chad has ran into with not having a star running back.
Yeah, Cam, but I don't doubt him for drafting Cam Akers because everybody thought the same thing, and here we are. Cam Akers has done nothing.
I agree. I agree right there with you. I have Akers stock in another league, and it's disappointing. You think you're getting a starter and a guy who played big time in the playoffs last year, and he's doing nothing. Now, Damian Harris, I don't like the matchup for him this week.
No.
It's a bad matchup. Packers' run defense is really good. But I feel like Devin Singletary has a little bit of value because Baltimore's defense has been giving up a lot of screen passes because they attack the quarterback so much.
Yeah, I mean, Devin Singletary might have a big week this week, but we'll see how they game plan.
Yep. Looking at quarterbacks, Kyler Murray, it's a good matchup for him, but I feel like Josh Allen is going to have the eye of the tiger this week and kind of prove it that he is still the elite quarterback in the NFL. He threw the ball 63 times last week.
It's crazy. That's a 1:00 game on Sunday, though. That's just nuts.
I know. What can you say? I wish this was the Thursday night game tomorrow night.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, Josh Allen for sure. I mean, I got Murray stock, and he's just not doing it right now.
Yep. Looking at Christie's, I mean, CEH, he's scoring touchdowns right now. He had 7 touches last week for 0 yards and a touchdown. Tell me how that works.
I can't. It's after the first 2 weeks, he's starting to become frustrating.
He is, but he's still getting the ball in the red zone, which is huge. Now, a surprise to some this year, not to me. Cordero Patterson has been consistently good in the running back position in Atlanta.
Starting to slow down a little bit, though.
He's starting to slow down, but I think you're starting to see that team slowing down. They're starting to get a roll, and the offense is settling in. They're not relying so much on running the ball so much.
Mm-hmm. He's still valuable though. So,
yeah. And then at what point are we going to see Jonathan Taylor do Jonathan Taylor things?
I don't know. Madden doesn't like him. He's already dropped down to 93.
Now, looking at wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown was held without a touchdown for the first time in 9 weeks last week. He's coming back down.
He's a beast.
He still is a beast, and I still like DK Metcalf, even though he's not getting the ball like the way he normally did. I look for him to. I think like this week he might find the end zone.
He could. Like you can see it.
And let's look at Chad. Stefon Diggs. I love Stefon Diggs. Look for Stefon Diggs to go off. I like Brandon Cooks because of the volume. And look at who Chad is starting this week.
Deontay Johnson.
That is right. I have been on the Deontay Johnson train for the last 3 weeks. And Chad even said it on Discord. Keith, I'm going to start him. And lo and behold, he started Deontay Johnson.
Will that be enough to help him?
Picks coming up real soon. And then we look at tight end. Cameron Brate got into the offense a little bit last week, but he's not Rob Gronkowski in Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, he's not. I mean, he's getting some nice little volume, but it's not enough.
Yep. And then you've got Mike Gesicki.
Explosive offense.
I feel like Gesicki has a little bit of value this week just because the Dolphins are a little banged up. Look for Gesicki to have roughly around that 7-8 point mark this week.
Yeah, I agree.
When it comes to picks, though, Chad's wide receivers, I think, are better, but I don't think that gives him enough to win. And I got to keep it in the family, too. I got to pick Christy.
You know, I don't like agreeing with you, but I'm going to agree with you.
All right. All right. Coming up next, we've got Steph's matchup with Craig's. This matchup, I see some holes here in scoring on Steph's team, and that concerns me. Now, granted, it's Wednesday evening, but Xander Horvath is still in the starting lineup.
Was that in last week's lineup?
Yes. Because I remember talking about this last week. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, what I'm missing, but I understand DeAndre Swift is probably going to be out this week. But you got to put Lenny Fournette in.
I'm going to say Leonard's enough to start, though, this week. Without question.
And on Craig's side, looks like David Montgomery's leaning toward being out, but he's got a capable backup in Ramondre Stevenson right there on the bench.
Capable. I mean, it's a 1 week filler. Hopefully for him, it bode well. Yeah, that's going to hurt him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the quarterback matchup, I think Burrow's going to be on his back quite a bit this week, which does hurt the scoring in our league because you do get negative points taken away. You get negative points for sacks, and I think that's what's hurting Joe Burrow. And Tua, does he have a back injury? Does he have a concussion? Does he have a spine injury? Does he have a neck injury? he's just going out there and slinging the ball this year.
I mean, he's looking good.
Yeah, he's looking elite. Elite.
He is. I mean, we haven't had a good lefty in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty neat.
I like Tua. I feel like 12.5 points is undershooting Tua. Look for Tua to rebound from last week. Throw it. I don't even know if rebound's the right word. I think it's just going to be an explosion this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a high scoring game both ways.
Yeah.
But I think that it's going to be more Tua magic than it's going to be Burrow.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking at wide receivers, Ayuk, Jamar Chase, and I think it's safe to say Mike Evans ends up back in this lineup.
Yeah, without question.
But there is an interesting name down here. Craig could decide to go Chris Olave, which I can't say. I would say that I wouldn't be shocked to see Olave crack a starting lineup this week instead of Brandon Ayuk.
Those three guys on his bench could easily start in any, except could be played in that lineup except for Jamar Chase.
Yep. Now on the other side, Richie James, Cortland Sutton, Michael Thomas. Honestly, I don't hate Richie James now, especially with the Sterling Shepard injury and the disappearing act of Kenny Galladay. Richie James does have a little bit of value in that Giants backfield or wide receiving core.
Yeah.
But look for Michael Pittman to probably start this week.
Even if you play him, you're going against the Bears.
Yeah. Cortland Sutton, he seems to be dropping the ball a little bit more this year. At least that's the way it looked Sunday night. That was rough. Puntgate 2022. And then Michael Thomas, is he healthy? Is he not? I don't know what to think of that.
You know what? I'd be surprised if the man's on Q all year. So
yeah. And then it comes down to Ertz and George Kittle. He's had a little bit of a resurgence this year. He's built some chemistry with Kyler Murray, and it's nice to see him kind of having a little bit of a resurgent year this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But George Kittle, man, once him and Jimmy G start gelling.
Yeah, I do think defenses play a little bit of a role this week. I don't trust Pittsburgh's defense to score almost 10 points. Just because no TJ Watt. I don't care if Zach Wilson's coming back and it's the Jets. I don't like that 10-point number.
That is quite high for a defense.
It is, and the Rams defense always plays well against Jimmy G. It's just usually the offense forgets to show up when it's a Rams-Niners matchup.
Yeah. I would give the Rams a little bit closer to that 10-point mark than the Steelers.
Yeah, especially if Trent Williams isn't going to be playing. I think that's a huge thing that nobody's talking about this week. But I don't think that's enough to say that an upset's going to happen here. I'm going to stick with Craig pulling out a win and continuing a solid start to his season.
There's enough there to trust Craig.
And once again, we agree. Nick, you realize we're 6 for 6.
Maybe we'll differ here and maybe I'll get some luck. All
right. Next up, your matchup.
Here's maybe we'll differ a little bit. You and Captain Kirk.
This could be where we differ. But go ahead. Are you going to rock Derek Carr still, or are you going to take a risk with Jacoby Brissett?
I picked up the Brisket man for a reason, so I might be starting Brisket this week. I'm really leaning to it. I'm going to do a little bit more. I'm going to wait for more rankings to come out before I make a final decision, but there is nothing at the quarterback position right now.
Tell me about it. You got the two guys doing the rush report with Derek Carr, Jacoby Brissett, Carson Wentz, and Matt Ryan. Oh.
And a suspended Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, we weren't going to bring that up, but Kirk Cousins. Maybe Caleb looked like a genius keeping Kirk Cousins.
No, he doesn't look like a genius. Don't give him credit.
Oh man, but I no matter what, I think it's a wash at quarterback. Whether you start Brissett or Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins is going to even that out, even because it's a 1 o'clock game. Just the 1 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock in England.
We'll see what happens. I'm not even going to speculate because uh, we'll be all at church, so who knows what's going to go on.
Oh man, hey, who says church doesn't start early in Maine?
All I know is I hope they leave the hopefully the Gale horn stays in Minnesota where it belongs.
Oh man, but let's look at running backs. Benjamin, I get the play there. It's not a terrible play. And Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb's nemesis when it comes to fantasy football. I do like Kareem Hunt against this poor Falcons defense.
I like him a little bit.
Now, on the other end, I do like your running backs. ETN, I know you haven't loved ETN this year, but he's still getting solid touches. He's getting 13, 14 touches. It's a matter of time till he finds the end zone.
Yeah, maybe.
But I do like Javonte Williams' matchup against the Raiders defense. I think that could play a huge role this week.
Maybe I'll sneak out a win with him.
There you go. Looking at wide receivers, though. Gabe Davis, if he's healthy, great signs of things to come. Tyreek Hill loves playing Thursday night football.
I hope the ball goes to Waddle and Gesicki the whole game.
And then Mr. $75 million man, Christian Kirk, he's getting the ball quite a bit and actually looks like a number one receiver there in Jacksonville.
And I hope the ball goes to Zay Jones and Marvin Jones the whole game.
Then you go to your side, Devontae Adams. I know it's killing you that Adams is not a Packer anymore, and his fantasy stock has fallen because his quarterback play's fallen off. But I like the starting of Romeo Doubs this week.
There's talk of him being a solid wide receiver one here at some point because the volume, the potential volume is there.
Potential volume, and I think Rodgers found his safety valve with Devontae Adams gone. Romeo Doubs has stepped into that role that everybody thought Christian Watson was going to be.
That's why I drafted them both. There were the Watson was I believe the second round pick, so he was the guy that Rodgers wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Romeo, he was had good numbers. He was going to do something behind Watson, but I mean, I'm really, really happy to see one of the rookies panning out for Rodgers instead of having his man fit on the sideline. As a Packers fan, it's really frustrating to constantly see that week in, week out.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping Judy, though, this week gets it together because his week one, amazing. But week 2 and 3, he's kind of fallen off.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to see with Jerry Jeudy. Broncos offense, there's questions there. I don't trust Russell Wilson anymore. I thought Russell Wilson was going to come to Denver and do Russell Wilson cooking things, but he hasn't done that. And his receivers have really hurt because of that.
Yeah, he needs to stop trying to make sriracha, M&Ms, and trail mix all together.
And Nathaniel Hackett needs to get the play call in on time.
Hopefully with his the people coming in, he'll actually do better.
Yeah. Now, tight end's kind of a wash here. Goddard and Hockenson, both solid tight ends, probably number 2 tight ends, respectively. Both are within the top 10. I feel like those two are a wash because both could find the touchdown, find the end zone, or not get the ball at all based on the offense.
Yeah, there's a game plan.
There's a slight edge there, though, to T.J. Hawkinson. Is if I had to decide, I'd give the edge to T.J. Hawkinson, just because there's not as much in that offense as what Philadelphia does.
Goddard, his numbers though are there compared to Hawkinson. He hasn't done much. Gerald Everett's actually done a whole lot more. My question is going to be matter of health for Hawkinson going in. I mean, I know you got Jamal Williams, but with Swift banged up, that's one less running back.
Yeah, I agree.
That's kind of my angle.
Yep. So when it comes down to it, do you pick yourself or do you pick against yourself?
I'm going to pick myself because I don't trust his running backs.
I'm right there with you. I mean, I had just written down my pick, and the matchup's there for you to win this week. I think you've done what you needed to do, depending on what practice looks like. I think you're setting yourself up to win this week. This is the non-professional talking, though.
All
right.
We'll see.
So that brings us to the end of the bigs, and we're going to move right into the Wii League. And this week's game of the week in the Wii League is Nate against Daniel. For some reason, I always forget Daniel's TikTok dancers. I think I would figure that out by now.
That one, I do know that it was Daniel.
Yeah, so you were just going to let me suffer and look like an idiot.
Hey, listen, I do it all the time. Part of the job.
It is. So, looking at this, I mean, the Wii League is highly entertaining. Nate is sitting in second at 2-0. He'd probably be a good, solid 3-0 because I feel like Nate's team very well could be the best team in the Wii League.
Yeah, he's got got running backs. He's got wide receivers. I don't like Allen Robinson and Marquise Brown personally, but he's got Burks and Olave on the bench, which I really like.
Yeah, I mean, Treylon Burks, there's a report that he's actually going to be getting the ball more. They want to get him the ball more, which is, I think, it's huge for him. But Allen Robinson's getting a little bit more comfortable in that LA offense. And Hollywood Brown is actually rebuilding that chemistry that he had with Kyler Murray at Oklahoma. I would be very careful by saying Hollywood Brown is overrated. I actually think he's a little underrated because he's building that chemistry that he had with Kyler Murray.
I mean, I wish him all the success in the world going to a new team. So, but
yeah, I mean, it's whatever you like. I mean, however you like that. But we talked about these guys, except for Hollywood Brown and Allen Robinson. I feel like that really is the key. If those two find the end zone, we're acting like we're the experts here and they have control over whether or not they find the end zone. I think that sets Nate up to have a solid win this week because wide receiver plays such a huge role.
Ready for it?
I'm ready.
Picking Daniel.
Ooh, finally. We go 7 straight matchups.
I don't love Kirk Cousin, but I like the running back. I like the consistent wide receiver play.
Nate, you're welcome. All right. Next, we've got Mark against Lincoln. Lincoln's at 3-0, looking to make moves to bounce up. And every single week we look at his team, and we don't see holes. Now, this week, I think there's a hole. But I think he can take care of it easy. When you look at DeAndre Swift,
he's got 2 players he could plug in.
At least, whether it's Terry McLaurin, Christian Kirk, or I even like Kadarius Toney this week to fill in for the injured Sterling Shepard. So there's guys there.
Yeah, there's plenty there.
On the other side,
yeah, Mark has some interesting play. Kamara's injury is going to play a major factor, I think, into a lot of his decision making. But he does have Mike Evans, T. Higgins, who I like. I know you don't. I just have to throw that in there. But Garrett Wilson, I think, is going to be a question mark for me because I would like to see how he plays with a new quarterback.
I think you're right. I think that's an interesting thought. But going back to the running back situation, having both Cook and Kamara being hurt does concern me because if both of them are hurt, that leaves Michael Carter as the only other option there. And granted, Mike Evans is there to fill in that role. But it concerns me that there's two questionable running backs, especially. But the nice thing is they both play at 9:30, so there's some leeway when you look at that.
True.
All right. So after picking every single matchup the same in the bigs, are we going to get to the point where we're picking every single matchup in the Weed League different? Who do you got?
Well, if you don't pick Lincoln, there's something wrong with you. No offense, because this kid's team is stacked.
Yeah, I was giving you the chance to be different because there's no way that I'm picking against Lincoln.
Prove me wrong to pick against him first.
Yeah. I mean, it's only 3 weeks into the season, but whew, it's a good looking lineup right there. All right. Now, next lineup, we've got Acres of Space. Now, I had to go back and figure out who this is because when I did this, Acres of Space was
a different team name.
It's Matt's team. It threw me off, and so based on when I built this, that's where it is. He's back to I Wear Loser Helmet, which gotta love that name, against Micah, who Micah got his first win last week in a big way.
Way to be, Micah. Way to be.
Yeah, way to be, Micah. But I mean,
I'm trying to look at the guys that maybe we haven't touched. We haven't touched Antonio Gibson.
We have not. Now, Gibson is an interesting play this week against a good Cowboys defense. He's touchdown dependent. That's what it comes down to. Will he find the end zone? Yes or no?
Which is why his stock prior to Robinson's injury really started to fall, but as soon as his injury, he went right back up. It'll be interesting to see. It's anyone's guess, really, with him. I don't really know if you want more. I mean, more to think about him other than that, because it's the Cowboys. I mean, they've actually had a decent defense this year. What Commanders football team, Redskins team will show up?
Yeah, another name that we didn't touch on is Zeke. Zeke did look halfway decent. He looked like he had the pep in his step Monday night against the Giants defense. I know it's the Giants defense, but he was still rattling off 10-yard carries and looking a little bit healthier than what he has the last season and a half, which is good to see. I'm not going to say he's fully back yet, but I did like what I saw out of Zeke the other night.
What did they say? On the ESPN Fantasy podcast, Zeke is the north-south runner, and seems like Tony Pollard is the more elusive outside the tackle guy.
Yeah, and you see that in the play calling.
But it's kind of like, okay, we know that they're now a two-back team, but instead of like Pollard was just a backup. Now it's just a two-back team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So when it comes down to it, do you believe that Acres of Space, aka I Wear a Loser Helmet, aka Matt Cobb, wins this week, or does Micah have what it takes to pull off a win?
I'm going to pick Matt because, he hasn't submitted a lineup, it looks like, and he has Khalil Herbert down there, and he is my darling this week.
Ooh, are we going to have to make a new segment, Nick's Picks You Can Stick?
the darling of the week, I guess.
Ooh, the darling of the week. I like it.
But I mean, Khalil Herbert is my man this week. And
Yeah,
so who are you going with though?
I agree with you. I don't see how Micah can win, especially when you have to start Cameron Braid at tight end. That always concerns me.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got Sam with Mark Nelson. It's late, guys. Cut me some slack. But this is a very interesting matchup when you come down to look at it. Because you look at Mark's team, Mark has 3 quarterbacks on his team.
And 2 of them are really good.
Yeah. Put a monopoly on the quarterback position. And maybe he's thinking that's what he's got to do to try to win this league. He's sitting at 2-1 right now. But his team is built really well when you look at it from top to bottom.
Got a good stout of players. I like the Isaiah McKenzie move for sure against the Ravens.
Yeah, that's underrated. But I also like, we talked about it, Jamal Williams and Breece Hall. I know they're not your household names, but I think this week is the week of the backup running back. There's always one of those every single season, and I think this week is the week of the backup running back in fantasy football.
Yeah, I mean, you could even make the case for anybody in the Ravens running game. I mean, will Dobbins play? Will it be
Justice Hill,
Mike Davis, Kenyon Drake, anybody? And it even gets more fun next week in week 5 when Gus Edwards comes back. Let's just a preview of next week.
Yeah, but looking at Sam's lineup, I don't love Jared Goff. I understand why you play Jared Goff. He's gonna win you ton. Here.
Sorry, I lost you a little bit there.
And looking at wide. My internet's messed up. Welcome to Maine. But I was just saying, Jared Goff, he's never going to go out and win you tons of games, but he is going to give you safe stats when it comes to being a football quarterback.
No, I agree with that assessment.
Yep. Looking around, seeing if there's anybody that we didn't touch on. I do think it's interesting that Sam's going with Michael Pittman over Brandon Cooks. I because of the sheer volume, I still like Brandon Cooks just because of the volume.
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, Michael Pittman hasn't been good because Matt Ryan hasn't been doing well.
Yep. So for me, I look at this matchup and this is Mark's matchup to lose. There's too many questions for Sam's team just because of the quarterback and the wide receivers. I think his running backs are good, but when you look at the team top to bottom, I think Mark has the better team.
I don't want to agree with you. I was trying to figure out a reason to pick or a way I could pick Sam's team. Cooks would be a benefit for him, but I don't like the Jared Goff play versus Herbert, so I'm gonna have to stick with Mark.
All right, and this brings us to our final matchup of the week. Shayne, the commissioner, and Owen. This is a make or break matchup for both of these guys. Is that both of them are 0-3.
Yeah, and you know what? I went away from Shayne last week, and it didn't help.
So it's not your fault.
It's the fantasy football odds makers, since we don't believe in other deities.
Yeah, I mean, I almost made this matchup the matchup of the week in the Wii League just because MFL calls it so close, and it's the matchup of the defeated teams.
Poor fellas. I mean, I feel your pain right now.
Yeah, and I think we've said this the last 2 weeks. Both of these teams, there's potential there, but just have gotten snake bit a little bit. but neither of them, they have the potential to score, but they're not scoring right now.
No, you got like, will Owens not Najee Harris show up?
Uh, I mean, Najee has a favorable matchup. Selfishly, I'm hoping he shows up, but I do like the start of Tony Pollard. I think we're at the point where Tony Pollard is an RB2 flex play, and it's not a question of should I start him. It's yes, you should start him.
And he went with a wise idea of going with this path without dealing with the Montgomery injury.
Mm-hmm. And I think he's starting the right wide receivers too. I don't love Chase Claypool, and that's coming as a Steelers fan. Zay Jones found the end zone last week. That's great. And Darius Slay is going to be following Christian Kirk this week, so it opens up for Zay Jones. And as even though we talked about Cortland Sutton dropping the ball, he's still better than Claypool and Godwin at this point.
Mm-hmm. This one's gonna be a matter of how many categories you like of a given team.
Yeah, I don't like Carson Wentz, and I'm saying that as somebody having to start Carson Wentz this week because what is it? Carson Wentz against Mahomes this week, because we saw this matchup in the bigs too.
I mean, you're dealing with the same issue though. Could you go with Broncos country, or could you go with Carson?
Yeah, it's the same issue. And Curtis Samuel, I don't love Curtis Samuel, but I understand why you start Curtis Samuel. Me personally, I probably would start Jahan Dotson over Curtis Samuel, but that's just which number 2 wide receiver do you like in that Commander offense?
Dotson, or like I said before about Bateman.
Mm-hmm.
Even Bateman.
And Shayne has DJ Moore sitting down there. He's going to find the end zone at some point, right?
Where he belongs right now until he proves otherwise.
Yeah, and Shayne's got Travis Kelce. I'm going to come out and say it. I'm going to stand on the soapbox. Sorry, Owen. The commissioner's getting his first win this week. I'm going with Shayne to get his first win.
I'm going to start picking first. This isn't right. Okay. All right, Shayne, this is you this week.
All right. So in our 12 matchups, Nick, we have picked 11 of them the same. So
not intentionally either. I mean, come on. I mean, there's some really favorable matchups. What? The only one we differed was what? Mine?
Yeah. No, we both picked a matchup that we disagree. Is Daniel, and then for all intents, Brandon on not losing this week. So
I can't crack a random Brandon will lose this week joke.
I'm sure you could. He could lose because of injuries. I'm sure of it. But that brings us to the end of the Rush Report. I still love doing this. This is one of my favorite parts of the week that I look forward to. And I loved the Discord chat last week. I love that we're getting back into the swing of actually communicating and talking in this league.
That's what it's all about. I mean, you can join public leagues, but it's not the same unless you're talking back and forth regularly with people.
Yeah.
We have some group chats for other leagues. They're not as active, but it's a lot more fun when we're all talking to each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's what fantasy football is all about. It's not about winning. I mean, we make jokes about not wanting to get relegated because nobody does, but at the same time, we're not playing for money. We're playing for fun, spending time with guys that we've grown up with, or it allows us for the guys that have moved away to stay in touch. So I absolutely love it that we're still doing this. As we wrap it up, as we wrap up, anything that you have to say as we look into week 4?
I think this is the injury bug week for a lot of people.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, I'm going to say something that we haven't, that I typically say, and many of you have probably gotten this from me, trade offers are huge. We haven't seen any trading this year, and I guess I shouldn't say that for the Wii League. I haven't paid attention really to the Wii League's transaction board, but there has been no trading in the bigs this year. None.
That's because you do them all.
Hey, I'm trying to better my team. I mean, I, I understand you do what you got to do, but I, are you as shocked as me that there hasn't been any trades this year so far?
There'll be some, I'm sure. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got a couple out there trying to cook some books and make some moves, but it's not up to me. It's up to the people that I'm sending them to. So check those often. I'm sure I probably send 2, 3 trade offers a day. And so I'm just saying that I'm using this as a public platform to say, please at least respond to me. Thank you, Dave. All right. Well, that's it for another Rush report. Thanks again for sticking with us, and we'll look forward to doing this again next week.